What's up, guys? So yesterday I did a podcast on the Lindsay Clancy stuff. And I was thinking about it today, and now I'm on my way home at night. And, I think that's when I do my best thinking. But I was thinking, how did our culture get to where it is now? And when I was growing up, because I'm older now, when I was growing up, I don't know, things seemed, much happier, much better. I grew up in the 80s, and it was. I always tell people, if I'd have known how great it was, I would have paid more attention. Because when I compare it to what it is now, it's just terrible. Like, everything is unsettling now. Our culture has no definitive rules. Everything is kind of whatever, and it's causing people to go stir crazy. I truly believe that. But I was thinking about our cultural rules and how they've slipped and why that might be, that's what we really need to focus on. We need to figure out a way to get back to very definitive rules in our culture. What is and isn't acceptable, and we need to draw those lines, and then we need to stand on that. We really do. We have to figure it out because and it's not always political, but in a certain way it is, because the left constantly picks at our own culture. They poke at it, they prod at it, they try to tear down the existing things in our culture. All the basic, just standard kind of rules that we always had growing up that we never even had to think about. Like, again, going back to the men and girls sports, like, we never would have thought of that even being a possibility when I was growing up. It never entered your mind, So how do we defeat the left and then redraw these lines to get our culture back in order? Because here's the thing, and I say this all the time, people need discipline. I don't care what anybody says. They need structure. Most people cannot do things on their own. They think they can, but they actually can't. There's very few people with the self-discipline in our culture and in any culture to do things actually on their own with no strings attached and nobody looking over their shoulder. And I know that sounds crazy, but if you actually think about it, we all live within a framework. Everything. Our laws, our culture, the rules. I mean, think about it. I'm driving right now. All of that. And so, as those lines and rules get blurred, we start to lose our minds. We really do. Some people a lot faster than others, but as a collective and as a society, we do. And our cultural rules made us into what we are. We're the leader of the world. We're the first world country. We're not a third world country. We have certain expectations of our people. And our laws are supposed to enforce that. We don't want violence. We want everybody to get along. We want cleanliness. We want clean water. We want good food. We want places to live. We want, we want certain luxuries. This is a first world culture. It's actually the first world culture. A lot of other countries look to us, whether they say it or not, and some of them act like they don't like us, but they still look to us for guidance. So, how do we get back to that? How do we defeat the left that's been chewing at our culture and blurring the lines for so many years, and get back to a fresh start, where people can just relax, live within the guidelines, the framework of what we're allowed. And look, I'm not talking about taking freedoms away. That's not it. But there are certain freedoms that we should not have. Again, the freedom to hurt people, things like that should not exist. It's not. It's just not reasonable in a first world society like we have. But that's always been my concern, and a lot more in the last so many years, because without the culture driving the country, you don't have a country. Because think about it, that's all it's really made up of. We live on the same piece of ground, but other than that, culture is the people. And the results of what your culture puts out is a direct reflection of the quality of your people. And I'm not a white supremacist or anything like that. I'm an American supremacist. I do believe we have the best people. We do have some morons. There's no doubt about it. But no other culture gives to charity like we do. Like, the stuff we do in our country is unheard of around the world, and a lot of people don't understand that because they've never been anywhere else. I've been to other countries. Our social networks, safety nets for people who are poor, our retirement, our food for the poor, our charities. Like, there's other countries where none of that exists. We take it for granted here, but in other places, they don't even have it. And yet a large portion of our culture is ashamed to be American, and it really is, it's crazy. But how do we defeat that? I mean, we really can't. I don't know if we can do it by voting, because there's always that element in the country, whether you beat them or not this 4 years, they pop up in the next 4 years. And then you beat them then, and then they pop up again, and then pretty soon they get lucky or we get lazy and they take over the culture, and then we're going to hell again, But I don't really know the answer. I think about it all the time. I'm getting older. I kind of wonder what I have kids. I kind of wonder what is going to be left of them, But I do know we got to fight, and we got to try to get this corrected every day. We do. It really is up to us. I'm one of those type of people who doesn't like to get involved with stuff until I have to. Because I have always believed in just live and let live and leave people alone. But if we do that right now, our culture is going to be destroyed. And that's 100%. And then the 250 years this country's been, it's going to be gone, okay? And it's not going to make, this country will not make it another 50 years if we don't straighten out our culture. But anyways, guys, just some perspective. Hope you guys are having a good night. I'll talk to you soon.